Let's get into it. I'm Remington Vandergriff, licensed clinical social worker, board certified diplomate, and this is Bonafide and Unfiltered, the mental health podcast. The free-form forum where male mental health professionals discuss all things related to men's mental health, focusing on empirical data and both personal and professional experience, leaving behind the rhetoric. It's not just one more manosphere podcast that you've come to love or hate. Depending on your lens, you might like or not like what you hear. You may feel seen or heard. You may be offended, but no matter what, you're going to learn something about men's mental health that you'll hopefully take with you. This episode is going to be talking about the joking and the making fun of when men have mental health issues. So I'm going to go ahead and let my guests here introduce themselves.
I'm Ray Carson. I'm a licensed clinical social worker as well. Retired military, 23 years.
Ben?
Ben Palmer, MSW student, prior Air Force, 8 years.
Good stuff. All right, so like we said, we're talking today about when men do have mental health issues and the kind of acceptability and normalization that we see of making fun of them or putting them down, things of that nature. We see it all over with lots of men, but it's really most prominent when we see it in some of the celebrities. So some that came to my mind, and if there's any more that you guys want to add, definitely feel free to. In a very recent one, we're talking about Kanye West and Justin Bieber. Will Smith relatively recently as well. Going in the past a little bit, we talk about Dave Chappelle, Robert Downey Jr., Charlie Sheen, Pete Davidson, Zac Efron, and Prince Harry. Do you guys think of any other ones that kind of come to mind as guys who have struggled, but then they didn't really get much love in the media?
Wow.
I'd say Heath Ledger.
Mm-hmm.
How much that some people want to attribute to actual mental health or just way overcommitting to his role is debatable, but I'm of the opinion that I'm of the opinion something else was going on, and him diving that deep into that role just exacerbated those issues.
Yeah.
I think I agree with that too as well. He was a hard method actor, so his ability to dive deep, but then he may get gotten lost in that approach. But I know a few basketball players like Kevin Love, but I mean he got some attention. But I mean, again, when it comes to men, at the end of the day, oh, thank you for disclosing, thank you for this, but we don't get the same love and affection that women will. Oh, what's wrong? Are you okay? Are you all right? There's an expectation for us to hold on and be strong and not be able to talk about it.
And going back to what we were talking about last week, I'm fully convinced it is firmly rooted in the stigma that's surrounding men's mental health. So, if you don't take people's mental health seriously, it's a lot easier to joke about it at their expense.
Well, and even in researching for this to start off, I was just Googling the different streams of celebrities with mental health breakdowns or celebrities who are open about their mental health, or just trying to find ones that maybe I'd forgotten about over time. And you see vast majority of these lists are going to be 75% or so of females, and then you've got just a few males. And you have to really dig, and even on these lists, you think about some of them you don't even see. Kanye West is on a lot of them because it's kind of popular right now. But you don't see some of those other folks.
Recency bias, yeah.
But so let's get into some of these specific ones, like Kanye West. I did a TikTok on him, a couple weeks ago when he had that tweet came out where he had said that he had been looking at adult magazines when he was 6 years old, and that he had started giving blowjobs to his cousin. He didn't say what age the cousin was. I'm not really sure, but it was just wild to me that someone who has been so vocal in their struggle with bipolar, that we know it's not even hidden. We know that's what's going on, and he believes something like that. And it went all the way from him being a predator to all these different things and making fun of him, all the homophobic slurs and all these different kind of things. And it's to me, it blew my mind that we could be that callous. And it was not even just women or something. It's men doing that sometimes more. I don't know. What do you guys think about that?
Man, I'm gonna tell you something. The from a professional
Mm-hmm.
experience and then from just personal
Mm-hmm.
experience, the mindset of certain, if we just gonna label it just to men, the mindset of men
Mm-hmm.
in general, those who laugh, those who
Mm-hmm.
shun it,
Mm-hmm.
those are the ones that probably more than likely have issues, and
Yeah.
they don't want to be vulnerable
Mm-hmm.
to it.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to be vulnerable to it. They don't want to,
Mm-hmm.
open that closet
Mm-hmm.
because it's just a sign of weakness. It's a sign of something that, oh, I'm not a man
Yep.
anymore, or I'm gonna be so hurt that this is something I tried to just keep
Mm-hmm.
closed, and then personally speaking, just men in general, unfortunately, a lot of us don't want to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want to speak
Mm-hmm.
on it. Only us that allow ourselves to be
Mm-hmm.
vulnerable, allow ourselves to
Yep.
speak on it. Can help others in that aspect.
And I think that most people don't take it seriously because in the last when because I feel like it kind of started back when he interrupted Taylor Swift back in 2009,
Mm-hmm. Something like
something
that.
like
Yeah.
that. But he's just gotten so exponentially more outlandish
Mm-hmm.
in the stuff that he comes out
Mm-hmm.
with that the internet's just kind of, well, society as a whole, but specifically like internet and meme culture have just
Mm-hmm.
taken him and he's like, oh, it's just a parody of
Right.
himself, so we're just going to run with it and laugh. They're not
Mm-hmm.
considering, hey, maybe he's not doing this just for engagement.
Right.
Maybe there's something that's actually going on that we really need to have a discussion about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it's easy to see the mania.
I
They
mean,
look at it as funny.
I feel like, at least in the private conversations I've had with people they try to make it sound like that we're using mental health as an excuse. It's like, I'm not excusing what he's said and done in the past, like trying to reclaim the swastika and all that other crazy stuff that he was on
Mm-hmm.
Twitter ranting and raving about. Not an excuse for it, but there is a reason behind it, and I don't think it's just, oh, he's just looking for
Mm-hmm.
engagement and clicks.
Well, I say with my clients and my
Like,
supervisees a lot that excuses and explanations are different things, but they're both valid. An explanation for something does matter. It's if you and again, we're not, none of us are his therapist or anything, but looking at it like seeing a manic episode with some psychotic features and stuff, a lot of those things can make a lot of sense. And then even the part about his
He's the
medications.
textbook definition.
Like the medications, people don't understand like
Yeah.
what bipolar
But
medications do to people. Like so many people want to get off them because they're just this numb and don't feel anything, and the high is nice even though it's scary and it's complicated.
a lot of people bipolar don't want to take their medication. Yeah, you say they don't
Yep.
want to take their medications. They'll fight tooth and
Yep.
nail not to take it.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I
yeah,
definitely
I've
understand.
heard it can be difficult when they're in like a
Mm-hmm.
manic state and more in that
Mm-hmm.
manic phase of
Yeah, I mean, you're
bipolar.
feeling like you
So
think you're a god and you're invincible, and everybody's just holding you back, and all those things. That it's like a euphoria. That I mean, why would you want to leave that when you don't realize the things that are happening outside? You just feel great there. And of course, there are some folks, depending on them, that it is a very uncomfortable mania and they can recognize it and stuff. But it's just such the gamut between you know what a hypomanic state looks like versus a manic state with psychotic features. But then, so
Yeah,
like Justin Bieber is another one that's pretty much in the news, and it's one. Again, it hurts me so much to see some of these memes, and like before knowing what happened, I would admit that I probably had a few different thoughts and things, but after finding out what he went through, with the whole Diddy situation, and just in general, you see some of these other clips of other celebrities and the way they talk to him, and I mean, it all comes to a head now. It's all being talked about. So yeah, I mean, he's like shaved his head. He's lost a whole bunch of weight. And he's looking, not doing well. And all it is, well, not all, but a lot of it is people just making fun of this decline.
yeah, the more that comes out about the stuff that goes on behind the scenes in the entertainment industry, the more I kind of give people I would have normally brushed off a
Mm-hmm.
second look, because especially when you come into the industry
Mm-hmm.
that young. I think he was, because he was
Yeah,
barely
I
a
think he
teenager
was
when he
12.
got
Yeah.
signed, I think. So he's effectively spent his entire life in the entertainment industry, being exposed to God only knows what.
He was
So I mean,
manipulated.
there's no way that what he's seen, done, or been exposed to hasn't had some kind of impact on his mental health.
Absolutely.
A significant impact on his mental health. There's a video out there of him supposedly giving fellatio
Oh, really?
to a football player in a nightclub into the camera caught, and then
Jeez.
they stopped it. And I mean, just the alone the manipulation that Sean Combs did to this young man,
Mm-hmm.
like just that alone in and of itself, um,
Mm-hmm.
and the alleged stuff that he put him through.
Yep.
I mean, that's a bare weight for his young age. Him just to carry that weight by himself. Um, I don't even have the words. I just be transparent with you. I mean, for him to still stand, to still try to push forward, it's a lot. It's a lot. And it's saddening, like you said. People laugh, but that's the reaction though. To laugh it off. Oh, you're soft. You're not a man. You know. But I say those are the same people that need help because you're the first person to laugh. Let's open your closet and let's see what's going on with you.
Mm-hmm. Well, another one too
That'd be a whole different conversation
yeah.
then.
And so I haven't seen anything when it comes to Will
You start
Smith
getting into other people's
about
closets.
like diagnosis or anything, but just the simple fact of like on that, what's it called, the red table? Is that what it's called? Jada's show that she had, the red table, red carpet, something like that, where she was telling him that she was having this entanglement, and he starts crying and stuff, and like it became a meme of making fun of him crying. Like he's having his world shattered on national television live, and we're making fun of it. Like, and I mean, the more you get into it, you look at it's been years and years of that stuff going on, and it came to a head. Like,
Remington, she was proud in that moment to say what she said. Like the disrespect of a man's wife. Like to sit there and just tell your husband what you've done, and he had to sit there and take it. Like, I mean, he's a better man than me. I wouldn't have sat there. I wouldn't have put hands on or nothing like that. I'd have just got up and walked out. Like, I'm not going to sit there and deal with that. I'm not doing that at the end of the day. And we're not staying married after that either. I expect my wife to protect me and have my back. Now, if y'all swingers, they were supposedly swingers or whatever. Like, it seemed, when I saw the video, my heart felt for him. Like, she just did you dirty in front of the world. Like, and didn't even bat an eye.
Yeah, I feel like that should have been a conversation saved for a marriage counselor or some kind of professional, like therapeutic setting, not a podcast that hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of people are going to listen to and watch.
well, and then it compound. You see it,
But
when the Chris Rock slap thing happened, and yeah, like you said, you can't excuse things, but like looking at it, I can completely understand where that went. Like his mind wasn't in the right place of what was going on, defending her, whatever kind of stuff. Everybody has different responses to what's going on, and again, it was just this, kicked out of the, Screen Actors Guild and all these different things. And like I said, I get it. Consequences have to happen for certain things, but just the lack of understanding and the making fun and the shaming and all that of.
yeah,
I mean,
it's all.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Ben. Go ahead.
I was saying, it's all fun and games until something extreme happens, and then they're like, "Oh, how did we not see this coming?" It's like the signs have been there. Like I know hindsight's 20/20, but rather than laughing people off and assuming that they're just doing stuff for engagement, maybe consider that that's not just for laughs, and it's a cry for help. Like, hey, something's wrong.
She put him to shame. Like you talk about all the characteristics, supposed characteristics of a man from the world's perspective: bravado, masculinity, toughness, never breaks down. And so for him to break down, to cry, to appear to be soft, and then be humiliated, right? Like the world saw him and was just like, dude, why you let it happen? But what if he'd have hit her, it'd have been worse. If he'd have done something, it'd have been worse. So he took it on the chin. Like I give him credit for taking it on the chin, but at the end of the day, he was humiliated. Like things you don't expect your spouse to
Mm-hmm.
do to you. She did, and it was a degradation,
Mm-hmm.
like none other, just a humiliation. I
Mm-hmm.
humiliated. That's the word that
And
comes
so
up.
many of the comments on those, like, go
And
ahead.
I mean, we even see it in people that. Oh, I was just say we even see it in people that don't, you know, may not portray like your typical signs of like mental health issues. Like Michael Jordan, he became an internet meme for crying at his Hall of
Mm-hmm.
Fame speech.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm not going to presume to know anything about his mental health, but assuming that he's normal,
Right.
like if men can't even do that for something as significant as that and not be laughed at and memed on the internet, like what is society
Mm-hmm.
doing?
Yeah, and it goes into
You
what
know,
you're
I have to
saying
tell
about
men in
the,
sessions it's okay to
yeah,
cry.
it's going to what you're saying about like the real man kind of thing, like, because in so many of the comments, like with Michael Jordan and with the Will Smith one, like some of them were making fun of him crying, and then other ones were like making fun of him as, oh, he must not have been a man to be able to keep her from stepping out and all these things, and so now we're blaming him for her decision, and that's, I don't know, because it gets tough, and so
Yeah, like
you can imagine if that's happening on
how
the
are her
national
marital
scale,
indiscretions?
right? Yeah, it becomes, like we said, it becomes normalized, and so then, yeah, we see this on the celebrity scale, but then what happens with your friends or with the acquaintances at work and all those things, and those are things we don't see. Who knows how many millions of people have this exact same situation? It's just not at the forefront, of the media.
Man, you touched. I was just about to say it. His was out in front of everybody, but what about that person behind closed doors that
Mm-hmm.
experienced the same exact
Mm-hmm.
thing, but can't do anything about
Mm-hmm.
it? Nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Just
Yeah,
got to
because
deal with it.
Yep.
we don't have the limitless resources to just disappear for a
Yep.
year
Yep. Which that
and then
one
come back and
that
pretend it never
actually
happened.
goes right into the next one on the list was Dave Chappelle. When he left the show and went to that facility in South Africa for, I don't even remember how long it was. There was so much negative, and it's crazy. I don't know if things get like screened off of what used to be there on the internet or whatnot, but like I can't hardly find anything of the stories that I remember being out during that time that the media was writing about him.
Said he
Yeah,
was
yeah,
crazy.
Mm-hmm.
They said he was crazy. They
Mm-hmm.
said he was crazy. They said he was on drugs.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when he left, $50 million on the table.
Mm-hmm.
He explained it on Oprah. He explained it in other places what he did and why he did.
Mm-hmm.
But the stories was he was on drugs. He was crazy. He left. To go to Africa, and like you said, people laughed at it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it we you the world will provide commercials.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, go see mental health.
Mm-hmm.
Go get help. But if it's somebody who they think of high esteem,
Mm-hmm.
get excoriated for it. Why are you going?
Mm-hmm.
You're not supposed to be this. You're not supposed to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Why are you?
Yeah.
Yeah,
If anything, it would
I'm sorry.
normalize it. If we
It
look,
accepted and had
horrible.
these celebrities that so many people have this kind of worship for, which is a whole other topic. But when they do those things, and if we saw that as accepted, you would have the contagion where people would then themselves see it as more acceptable.
and I'm curious to how much of it would be society putting celebrities on pedestals. Like
Mm-hmm.
to you or me, if someone put $50 million on the table in front of me, I'd be hard pressed to turn around and walk away
Mm-hmm.
from it. Like, but I feel like society as a whole, we typically see like they're like, oh, there's celebrities, they've got more money and they never know what to
Mm-hmm.
do with. Like, if they needed help, they could get it, and they could still, do this TV show deal or movie
Mm-hmm.
deal or whatever it is that's going to make them $50 million and be fine. It's like that's like we've deified them almost to the point of like depersonalizing them. Like they're
Mm-hmm.
not people.
Mm-hmm.
It's like their faces and like their bodies on a
Mm-hmm.
screen, but they're not like we don't view them as actual
Mm-hmm.
people with everyday people
Mm-hmm.
issues.
No,
And
we view them. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Ben. Go
and
ahead.
we kind of just like justify not paying that much attention to
Mm-hmm.
it to what like their stuff by saying, "Oh, well, they're rich, they're famous." It's either they've got the money to do it, or this is what they signed up
Mm-hmm.
for when they became
Mm-hmm.
famous. When they tried to make it famous, they knew this was going to
Mm-hmm.
happen.
And on that note, what comes to mind is exactly what Ben said. That don't break my
Mm-hmm.
image of what I have of
Mm-hmm.
you. Right? Like that's the world. I have this image of Will Smith or Kanye West or whoever the celebrity is. But then if that's broken or if it's changed in some way, then it's their fault because you changed my perception of what I thought of you. So now I have to excoriate you because you're no longer the deity. You're no longer the hot stuff that I thought you were. But they're human beings, just like we are.
What's interesting, like the other one with Charlie Sheen, um, and his bipolar is what it came out to finally to know that it was when he was having all those issues, and you compare that to some of the other folks who are like Robert Downey Jr., where now the memes now that he's Iron Man, it's all the redemption story and look at this and look at that. That's not what it was when he was in that picture originally in the
No.
jumpsuit.
Yeah, it was. He's a criminal. He's a drug addict. Throw him in jail. Lock him in jail and throw away the key.
And that whole substance abuse part,
Yes,
the
I
addict,
remember when it was happening.
That's even a whole other topic that we should definitely do a podcast on about the relationship of self medication and addiction and all that. And we want to just vilify and make it a moral thing, and that's how it was looked at. Like I said, I remember I was younger then, of course, but I still remember the way that looked.
Yeah, I remember having quite a few laughs at Charlie Sheen just because at the time I wasn't involved in the mental health space.
Yeah.
Like, I was one of those people who's like, oh, well, this dude's off his fucking rocker. Like, talking about like tiger's blood and shit. Like, what? That's ridiculous. So, I mean, I'm guilty. I'm just as guilty as anyone else of like having a couple of chuckles at him and making fun of him for it. But obviously, from then till now, it's a whole different lens to look at people through, and it's like, I can see it.
I could tell you after being classmates with Remington, what we went through, my lenses change all the time. There's no way I can see the world differently. Like I see the world through a mental health lens first and foremost. Before I was like you, Ben. I was like, hey, look, I would come up with my own summation, but now, man, look, I analyze, I see, I break it down. So I understand where you're coming from, man. I understand.
That's tough. That's
yeah. And I feel like being involved in the mental health space, like you can't help but view things through that lens. Like, oh, okay, well, because like I see it. Like I catch myself doing it all the time. Like I'll be watching how people like interact, or I'll be interacting with someone and like just kind of like watching. Was like, something's there's something deeper going on. It's like, all right, I got to stop trying to like, get inside people's heads and just. But at the same time, I can't afford to not try and stay in tune with what they've got going on because that's how people end up taking more extreme action to get like bring attention to what they've got going on or what they had going on. God forbid they choose to end everything.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
One of those interesting too that doesn't get much talk. There's only maybe a couple articles that I can even find about it. Is Pete Davidson. Lots of people make fun of him for the way that he is, just his general demeanor and stuff. And it came out that he had borderline personality disorder. And I mean, his dad died in 9/11 when he was a little kid. Like not being able to see that maybe there's a correlation with some of these things as to why he is who he is.
Yeah, that was just a mildly traumatic event that happened. Yeah. I mean,
and he still has to live with that every day. He has to deal with that, even though he let's just say, for conversation's sake, he may have been healed or he has been redeemed enough to say, okay, I can handle it. But he still will remember a date. He'll still remember a time. It might be a trigger. Like I would have spoke to my dad about this. He still has to deal with that, and that's still even a hurdle to deal with. Even if you've gone through good therapy, and you've gone through the steps. The anniversaries are always that moment where you still gotta battle and you still gotta fight through. I'm somebody personally, like I've gone through, every year, certain date, certain time comes around. I just try to stay solemn. I try to stay good, and I fight through. There might be certain triggers. I can tell you that because of my personal situation, I can say it. Like I lost my first child. Right? Stillborn. And what that did to me was my boys, I'm overprotected. Why are you going here? I need to go. I need to be here. I need to be wherever you are. I need to be. So they even had me retire early from the military because of that, because I didn't feel like their mom was doing the job that she was supposed to do. So I retired. I retired and was like, look, I'm here. Let me go ahead and do what I got to do. Let me be here. And I take a lesser job just so I can be available. But, every time that anniversary would come or something would happen, it would remind me, be like, Dad, why you crying? I'd be like, I don't want to talk to you about it, but,
Yeah.
I'll be okay. You know what I'm
I
saying?
mean, and with that, I appreciate you being vulnerable with that. Like, I remember, in 2013 when we had miscarriage, like, there was not one other person that I felt like I could talk to besides you, because you got it, and there's so little focus on, things of that nature, especially like that specific kind of trauma. There's so much focus on the mom, and I get it. There's physical things that happened there too, but we just get forgotten about, and of course that permeates. Trauma permeates us. Whether we meet the criteria for PTSD or whether we have post traumatic growth or any of those things, it all still is always going to be there and be part of us. And like I said, it's so tough because even as men who understand these kind of things, it's not always available.
Yeah, that's true.
And one too that I thought was interesting when looking into a little bit deeper into it was Zac Efron. So like he went from this kind of teen bopper movie kind of kid to now he's just jacked out of his mind. And I saw one recently that they think he had gotten some kind of jaw surgery or whatever, and et cetera, et cetera. And he was opening up about his depression. And what's interesting, I didn't see a diagnosis anywhere put out, and I'm not going to pretend like I would diagnose him with that. But my master's project was on body dysmorphia, and it really looks like that could be a big chunk of it. And that's not just him. There's so many people. We talk about it a lot with like the Barbie dolls for the women, but like what about He-Man and GI Joe and all the ones that we had looking up that are just these jacked muscular guys, and what we were supposed to look like and what a man looks like and stuff. And we start to compare to that, and it makes sense. There can be significant mental health concerns from just that body dysmorphia.
But you say that, and the person that comes to mind but doesn't seem like to have any mental health issues, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
I would say it all day. Every time I look at him, he's always have to. It seems like he always have to be swole. He always have to present himself a certain way. Even though I know you wrestle, I know he's in the movies, but it's just for me, my perception from a clinical standpoint. When you say body dysmorphia, I just look at him because a lot of people just say, you hear, oh yeah, he's on steroids, and he'll never admit that he is or he isn't. But that person comes.
And that even brings a whole other topic. Like I can't remember what this stuff's called, but there's some of those bodybuilders that do that stuff that they inject straight into the muscle and it swells really big. And some of them have even had like their biceps like collapse on them and stuff. And everybody, again, it's another one you see YouTube videos or TikToks making fun of these guys with their these bubbly looking muscles and stuff and their injuries. And it's like something led to that. Like they didn't just wake up one morning and be like, I want giant bubbly muscles that are going to blow up on me. Like something was behind that, but we make fun of them.
Yeah, true.
But he actually, The Rock actually was on some of the lists, but he wasn't one. He like with open with his mental health, but he wasn't one that had like any kind of breakdown or anything that was in the media.
Nah, and I don't think I ever saw it. It's just that when you spoke, and I remember when you did your project too. That was very powerful paper. But for me, it's just me, and like I said, I don't have any evidence. But as you speak about it, I see him. Now I can say he has a movie coming out that he's actually switched to try to do some dramatic film. But the dude is like swole, like
he's so much bigger than he was 20 years ago.
I don't know what that'll do to your body, man. I don't know how. Like at the end of the day, what that does, because I know a lot of wrestlers go through that. They have to go through those hurdles to look and perform and do all that stuff for the television. And I mean, I'm sure a lot of them have mental health issues, but they'll never really speak about it or talk about it.
Oh yeah. I always kind of revert to like Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
As far as I'm sure we could pick out any number of different things going on with him specifically, just because he was always in the spotlight. But like, he was another one they just kind of laughed at, but there was very clearly something going
Mm-hmm.
on, given the drastic
Mm-hmm.
changes he made to himself
Mm-hmm.
over from the time he was born
Mm-hmm.
till when he died, 2010,
I don't remember exactly, but yeah. Mm-hmm.
whenever it was. Like, you can't tell me that no one saw like there was an
Mm-hmm.
issue there.
Well, the last album he did with his brothers was in '78, or
Mm-hmm.
'79, and then the Pepsi tour or whatever, he came out with a Jerry curl,
Mm-hmm.
light skin, and then they're trying to say, oh, he had a light skin
Mm-hmm.
vitiligo. But if you look at any of his earlier years, it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
seem like that. He was a
Mm-hmm.
black
Mm-hmm.
kid with an afro. Then
Yep.
he becomes a white
Right.
man with Jerry curls. Like there's
Mm-hmm.
something there, and of course, now I'm not gonna say of course. You can see their father was very hard on them, so I can see from that stern discipline or that punishment or
Mm-hmm.
maybe abuse that the mental health issue
Mm-hmm.
could arise because he was the star of the
Mm-hmm.
show, the Jackson Five, now
Mm-hmm.
Michael Jackson, then carrying the world, being the mega star that he was, and then being accused of child
Mm-hmm.
molestation from the mansion or that he had.
Neverland Ranch, yeah.
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 Remember that
Neverland.
case with the boy? Yeah. So I mean, yes, I
And
agree
then there
with
was
you.
the hanging his kid over the balcony thing, and there was so many. But like you said, again, I'll admit my research on his um, childhood and stuff probably ends at the movie that was made, about him all. But and I'm sure that's dramatized at least to a little bit. But like you said, the abuse, and I heard one of the theories was that he had gone through so much of that surgery, so he didn't look like his dad anymore. I don't know what truth there is to that. Who knows? But it was just one of the theories I had heard.
I mean, it would. I mean, it certainly seems like there could be a grain of truth to that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, if you're raised in the household that it seems like he was raised in, and if you look like you one of your parents, I could definitely see wanting to change and
Mm-hmm.
kind of use that as a way of distancing yourself from that. Because I know if someone beat the shit out of me every day as a kid, I grew up to look just like him, I wouldn't want to look at myself in the mirror either.
Yeah.
Yeah, he got his
Like,
nose
Mm-hmm.
changed. I think
I wouldn't want to see my abuser's face looking back
yeah,
at me in the mirror. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
and again, I mean, I he was another one of those ones that I've never viewed him through like a mental health lens. It was just
Mm-hmm.
like, oh Jesus, what's he done now?
Right.
He's like, but I mean, I was aware enough to like I knew that something wasn't right, but it was like I didn't take it as seriously as probably I
Mm-hmm.
would now if it was going on.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
When he hung that baby over the ledge, I said, "Nah, that's bigger than nobody would on a normal baseline would take that child
Mm-hmm.
and do what he just did,
Yeah.
Yeah,
right? Regardless if it was for fun or he just had a spontaneous moment.
Right.
Nobody that loves their child, no parent would do what he just did.
Yeah. In their right
So
mind.
for
Yeah.
me, when I saw that, I was like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's something going on.
And one that didn't.
yeah. That seems like a textbook definition of an extreme
Mm-hmm.
action. Like any anyone else would have done that with their kid, they would have DCS would have
Oh yeah.
been knocking at their door.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can't just hang a baby off a balcony and expect not to have
Mm-hmm.
some kind of repercussion.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What?
Which
Exactly.
the privilege of celebrities is a different conversation entirely. But
Definitely.
yeah,
And one that's not super recent, but still relatively recent, was Prince Harry. Getting out of the American side of a lot of this stuff. Like, not only did he have the anxiety issues that came from his mom's death at a young age, but he's a combat veteran on top of that too. And there was so much like hate and just judgment and stuff when they decided to move out of the castle and go out on their own and do all these kind of things. And like to me, it just makes kind of sense. Like he's in a whole different world than the rest of the family, and he's got this wife who's his side and stuff, and they're gonna go out, be on their own together, being judged and all those different things. Like, what were we saying?
Prince Harry's an interesting subject for me because my wife's British. My mother in law is an American, like she's American and British citizen. But she lived in England most of her life, and her perception of Prince Harry from a British standpoint, as far as the kind of his nasty separation from the family, is drastically
Mm-hmm.
different than, you know, I guess your average person's here. Like I'm kind of in the middle of the road. I know, at least in her instance,
Mm-hmm.
her biggest problems with him is the way he treated the
Mm-hmm.
queen
Mm-hmm.
in the months, like in the year, like the year or two to months leading up to her
Mm-hmm.
passing. And then everything else, it kind of just seems like everything else just kind of snowballed after that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, and I do try to take that into account. I don't really have an opinion on it because I honestly I don't follow the royal family that
Right.
closely. It's not really like, yeah, my wife's British, but I'm not really super interested in like the everyday goings on
Yeah.
of what they're doing. But um, the thing that always jumps, like when someone says his name, the first thing I always think of is when he showed up to that party wearing a decked out Nazi
Mm-hmm.
regalia. I I don't remember when that was. It was had to have been early 2000s, I
Mm-hmm.
guess.
I don't know that I even knew about
Wow.
that.
I can't remember if it was. I'm trying to remember if it was pre 9/11 or it was. It had to have been early 2000s. I don't exactly remember
Mm-hmm.
when, but he showed up at some party in Vegas,
Mm-hmm.
completely shit faced, like decked out in Nazi regalia. And I'm just
Mm-hmm.
like, what are we
Right.
doing? Like, is that
Mm.
just like an alcohol fueled poor
Mm-hmm.
decision, or is this something you planned out ahead of
Right.
time? And if you did plan it out, what the fuck were you thinking?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
that's
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't think I remember that part.
but yeah. I'm kind of in. Yeah, he made a. I know when he was hit his. I remember when he hit young adulthood, he made a series of like really stupid
Mm-hmm.
decisions, which very well could have been, you know, been a result of him like obviously growing up with a camera in
Mm-hmm.
his face because he's part of the royal family, and then obviously his mom
Mm-hmm.
dying extremely suddenly, um, and anything else that might have. I'm sure that being part of a royal family has its own set of
Mm-hmm.
traumas, and so yeah, it was just one of those instances. Like I was like, what? He had a whole bunch of stuff go on real fast, and I think that's like right before he joined the
Mm-hmm.
RAF, and then went off and did his thing.
Yeah.
But all that to say, I'm kind of
Yeah.
meh on Prince
Yeah.
Harry.
Understood.
But so,
Yeah,
and kind of coming to bring us all together. Like, I know we're talking a lot about the celebrities and stuff, and what we see in the media and whatnot. But I think it's an important thing because that's what's so in the front of our faces. Everybody sees that, and especially nowadays when it's easy to have an Instagram reel or a TikTok or whatever, and there's all these comments from people that'll say the things that they would never say to somebody's face because they're on their couch or in their bed or whatever, and it becomes normalized to such a degree that, like we said earlier, like who knows how many guys are having this exact same issue that they're facing out in just the world, but the camera doesn't see it, so we don't know. So, what do you guys think? Like, where can we go from here? Like, what do we need to be doing as guys and as male therapists and just a society in general? What are some of the solutions you think?
I would say on a micro
Mm-hmm.
level, because it's
oh
going to
yeah,
be micro first,
Mm-hmm.
on a micro level. But this is happening
Mm-hmm.
here. Um, Opportunities where you can speak one to one to each
Mm-hmm.
other and allow that vulnerability to come out, feel
Mm-hmm.
safe to speak about it. Because macro, we could do it all day. We could do
Mm-hmm.
commercials, we could do advertisements,
Mm-hmm.
but I think the real work is on the
Mm-hmm.
micro level, right? Letting guys know it's okay. Like I tell male clients, hey man, it's okay to cry. You can
That's
let it
right.
out. Like, I tell them I cry. If I gotta cry, I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
cry. Like, I don't care what anybody else thinks
Mm-hmm.
about me. It's okay, you know. But I think on a micro
Mm-hmm.
level, it needs to start there, and we need to be very. I can't think of the word, but we just gotta push that
Mm-hmm.
agenda and let guys like men to men. It's okay. Like it's okay. So I'm gonna say the micro
Mm-hmm.
level to answer
Mm-hmm.
your question.
yeah. I feel like that's the only real sensible response because, like you said, we can pump out all the
Mm-hmm.
commercials and you know social media posts we
Mm-hmm.
want, but if if a large group of people already aren't taking it
Mm-hmm.
seriously, a commercial is not going to really change their
Mm-hmm.
opinion. But if you get out and like you said, do it face to
Mm-hmm.
face, like one on one conversations, like
Mm-hmm.
hey, you know, and then kind of event like it may take a while for it to catch, but once it catches fire and starts spreading,
Mm-hmm.
it'll you know And then obviously, that's something we got to teach our kids. Like I know my son is 8,
Mm-hmm.
so it's like I'm very big on like, dude, if you're mad, you be mad. If you're upset and you need to cry it out, dude. Like it's a perfectly normal human response to stress or emotion. Like there's nothing wrong with crying,
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's like you said, it's kind of that butterfly effect,
and it's just yeah,
that you might affect your circle of 10 people, but if those 10 people affect another 10 people, that affect another 10 people and keep going and going, then it can be, because these, yeah, you said, the macro, yeah, I mean, there's instances where you can see that public service announcements and things like that have changed stuff. Like littering is one of them, with Nancy Reagan's thing, and our generation pretty much doesn't litter at all compared to prior, and a lot of it could be attributed to that. But I think with things like this, that's just so deeply ingrained that, like you said, it's got to be modeling and showing that.
yeah. I think it's so deeply ingrained that it's gonna take more than just a couple of PSAs and some commercials and social media
Mm-hmm.
posts for it to really sink in and be like, okay,
Yeah,
this is real change that needs to happen.
definitely,
Let's make it
definitely.
happen.
Yeah.
Once that fire starts to spread, then yeah,
Mm-hmm.
okay, cool. You know, there's a shift starting to happen. Start pumping out PSAs, start
Mm-hmm.
pumping out commercials, social media
Yeah.
posts, whatever it is you need to do, like whatever it takes to get it spread out to a larger audience. But
Mm-hmm.
like that, like I said, that fire needs to be lit and spreading first.
Yep.
I think if we could get more men into the mental health world
So
too, like as mental health professionals, I think that would help a lot too, because it is a pretty female-dominated world. Whether we're talking about social work or LPCs or LMFTs, when you get to the psychology and psychiatry, you're looking a little bit more evenly spread. But the more of us we get doing this kind of work, I think would be a huge thing as well.
yeah, and then most I don't know about you guys, but I know most of the guys I talk to are like, man, I wish my like if they have a therapist, like man, I wish my therapist was a guy,
Mm-hmm.
or they'd be talking about an old therapist, like, man, my last therapist was a guy and he was great, and I'm like, okay, so what are you
Mm-hmm.
gonna do about it? Like even people like in class, they're like, oh yeah, this. I'm like, all right, well you're gonna be affecting that change. You're a guy. You're coming
Mm-hmm.
into the social work
Yeah.
field, like. But I think that the bigger question is how do we get guys interested in a female career field like
Mm-hmm.
social work? Like
Yeah.
what can we do to kind of spark that interest in
Mm-hmm.
them? Like
And it's funny that even
surely they wouldn't have to go through some kind of significant
right.
trauma for them to be like, oh
Yeah.
shit, we need more help in this field. So I want to go out and do this so I can help more people that are in my
Mm-hmm.
situation, and then I can help them, and then hopefully they can go on.
I
Yeah,
think it's good though. I guess on the positive side of that,
I am.
I at least personally have never heard any of the like making fun of ways they do for like men that become nurses, calling them nurses and all those kind of things. I've never heard that in social work, even though it is still primarily. It seems there does seem to be more support from at least the peer level, for wanting to have more men be part of it. So that is a positive one on this side, I would say.
Well, yeah, I feel like it's this the support is there in the field because the men recognize the importance that other men can play in the field in
Mm-hmm.
helping specific
Mm-hmm.
populations. Whereas like your average guy out on the street, he's not going to know. He doesn't know jack shit,
Mm-hmm.
honestly. Like to be honest, like
Mm-hmm.
they don't recognize or understand the impact that having another male
Mm-hmm.
therapist might have. Like, oh, this, guys see guys providing therapy. They're like, all right, well, I feel a lot more comfortable going to talk to somebody
Mm-hmm.
now because it's
Mm-hmm.
a guy.
Well,
They'll be able to relate to what I've got to say a lot more than
mm-hmm.
a woman can.
Well, that brings up another topic too of
Yeah.
like
It's
what you
knowledge.
said, like of guys just not knowing shit, and a lot of that, like we do, like who's used calculus from high school, but we could definitely use some kind of a mental health.
I barely made it
Yeah,
through
exactly. Like,
geometry.
we could definitely use, and we talk a lot about the like, oh, why don't we learn how to do our taxes and change a tire and all that stuff. And okay, well, what about mental health too? Like, there are some schools that teach psychology classes. I didn't go to one that had something like that. But even then, are we just learning stuff at a academic level, or like how to actually implement that? Not that we're going to make 18-year-olds into therapists, but just having that understanding of what things are.
Yeah,
You know,
knowledge,
you know.
knowledge, pass, and then being
Mm-hmm.
vulnerable to that. I mean, men being able to talk to other men about their issues, because it's understandable. I've had male clients that try to talk to women, and women, not to disrespect any women therapists, it's just that men, I can talk to another man and say, to a woman, she has to get in her emotions. She has to get into her feelings first,
Mm-hmm.
try to understand. No, I just need to get to this. This is what I need.
There are just some instances where women can't relate, no matter
Mm-hmm.
how in tune they get with themselves, or like how, because there are very distinct differences between men and women, especially when it comes to like mental health. And there's certain stuff they can't.
Seem to
Right.
understand that in almost every other demographic when we look at it. Like whether it's LGBTQI wanting to see someone who is also, or race in the same race, or ethnicities, and all these different things. But it doesn't seem to get like acceptable that men would like to see a man more. And I'll say that like my therapist, sometimes the other perspective is a good thing, with a person who's understanding. Because and this is even a whole other topic, but to kind of glaze over it, like the whole thing of really competent in something that you aren't really experienced in, cultural curiosity maybe, or cultural like wondering, and being willing. Um, but there's just certain things we
I
can't.
was just about to bring up cultural competency, and like, you know, sexual orientation, race, all that stuff. They don't really consider like the,
Mm-hmm.
men can't pretend like I'm not going to pretend that I can relate to a woman in the same way another
Mm-hmm.
woman can. But that male aspect doesn't really, at least, or thought about. They're just like, oh yeah, okay, well, you know,
What was
whatever.
interesting in the army too, like
I don't want to say it was like, I don't want to say they brushed
mm-hmm.
it off, because it was like with the straight white
Mm-hmm.
male tag, and they're just like, okay, well, you're
Mm-hmm.
over here. Opponent, where it's like, if you want to be culturally competent, like that's one of those things you do have to consider. Like, men typically relate to
Mm-hmm.
men.
Too, like as
So
a
So I
behavioral health
got it.
officer in a brigade, like there was the both sides. There was some soldiers who only wanted to see somebody else wearing a uniform, and they might consider it. And people will get so offended by that. And then there are the other ones who don't want to see anybody in uniform because they think you're like tied to command and all that stuff, which is a whole other thing. Um, no matter how many textbooks you read, no matter how many videos you watch, you're still just having a cursory knowledge of that thing.
And I'm gonna give you a perfect example. As a behavioral health officer, uh, I had a young, I'll just say
Mm-hmm.
service member come in. He said he was going to kill himself if he didn't get a sex
Mm-hmm.
change. And he looked at me and he told me, "You will not
Mm-hmm.
understand." That was his exact words. And so, from a standpoint of him wanting that surgery and wanted to be a woman, he was serious, right, about
Mm-hmm.
hurting himself. I understood the suicidal ideations. I understood his anxiety. Did I understand him?
Right.
No, I didn't understand him because I'm a heterosexual male. So at the end of the day, no, I didn't understand. But I understood his uh, need for help. So I had to go get him help, someone who understood him. So yes, from a context standpoint, I had context, but I didn't have competency because I was not in that situation.
Well, I remember too, Ray, with you, it was we was in our internship, and I think it was Heather, maybe it was Lisa that was seeing. It was a young black man, soldier, and he only wanted to see you.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
He only wanted to see you.
Don't do that situation.
But I get it. I get it. Like.
Go ahead. Go ahead and say it. I'm sorry. I didn't want to cut you off, guy. I know exactly what you're about to say. Go ahead.
It was an anger management, young black man, and he wanted to talk to somebody who understood being a angry black man, and so we're like, all right, well, we got someone who knows all about that. Yeah.
Oh, she came right through and she said, Carson, I got somebody, you understand. Yeah. It was an angry black man. I was like, come on. Oh God, I remember like that was yesterday. Oh my gosh. Okay.
All right. But all right. Kind of closing out, I think we talked a lot about a lot of stuff, and I think it's a lot of stuff for folks to chew on and hopefully pay attention to and listen to. And we will be back next week and do some more topics. Appreciate y'all coming on.
Thanks for having me, man.
That's all for now.
Pleasure is